It's the women in basketball talk. Let's go. Shot calling, the shots falling. My crossover leaves the ops crawling. The fans are in awe cause my handles are awesome. If you don't think I'm ballin', then hand me the ball then. Her story will make history. Watch the long shot hit the three, guaranteed victory. You might wanna stick with me, headed for the goal. If you roll, set a pick for me. It's the women in basketball talk. Tune in, all facts, no cap. We could talk about stats. It's the women in basketball talk. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it, yeah.
What's up, women's basketball fans? Welcome back to a brand new episode of Let's Talk Women in Basketball podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer Porty. In today's episode, we're going to dig into NCAA women's basketball graduation success rate. And later, we're going to chat with WABA All Star Arianna Emanuel-Wright. Did you know that women's basketball players' graduation rate is higher than men's basketball players? Research has shown that women's basketball players' average graduation rate is 93.9%. And men's basketball players' graduation rate is 87.2%. The NCAA academic progress rate states that there are 31 women's basketball teams with 100% graduation rate and only 23 teams on the men's side. Graduation success rates are determined based on the number of student athletes on a team who earn degrees within 6 years following their entrance into a NCAA institution. In our next segment, we will be joined by a women's basketball player who has proven that education is the key that unlocks doors of numerous opportunities. So stay tuned.
What's up, y'all? It's Arianna Emanuel-Wright, and you're now tuned into the Let's Talk Women in Basketball podcast.
Welcome back to Let's Talk Women in Basketball podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer Porty. Our next guest is a very intelligent young lady. She was the first ever academic All-American for women's basketball at the University of North Florida. She was also selected for Hall of Fame in Tennessee. She's a career consultant, and she was a member of the WABA All Star game. Please welcome Arianna Emanuel-Wright to Let's Talk Women in Basketball podcast. How are you doing, Arianna?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for the introduction.
You're welcome. So what have you been up to these days?
It's like pretty much kind of similar to what I was doing last year, like the end of last year. I started a new job in August. So I'm working full-time as a career advisor at the University of Richmond. And so primarily I work with marketing, communications, and art students. So I really love it because it's a drastic difference of what I was doing before in terms of students that I was working with. Before I used to work at Virginia Commonwealth University, also VCU, but I was working with like pre-health students. So like those that are interested in like pre-med, pre-dental. So really great student population, but very high stress. And so I knew that I wanted to do a 360 there. So yeah, for sure.
You have 4 degrees. That's amazing. What do you have your 4 degrees in?
Yeah, I started off my college journey in junior college at Santa Fe College in Gainesville, Florida. And so there is where I got my associate's degree in exercise science. So very hard curriculum. Luckily, I went to a high school that I had to take like AP and IB classes. And so I felt very prepared in terms of my study habits, but it didn't take away the challenging aspect of it, especially because I was a student athlete. And then I got my bachelor's degree in psychology with a minor in creative writing from the University of North Florida. That's where I was the first ever academic All-American for women's basketball there. And then after that, I went straight to grad school. So I got my master's degree in career counseling. It was like a double program. So it was a Master of Science and an educational specialist degree. And so 2 degrees, a lot of curriculum, a lot of work, but totally worth it. And I also graduated with my NCC, so my National Certified Counselor credential.
Wow, that's awesome. There's research that's been shown that many student athletes have stated in several articles that when they joined on their college basketball team or their college sports team, they had to select their majors based on the availability of the sport. So did you run into that issue when you were in college, or were you able to pick a major that aligned with your career goals?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I totally agree with that because I know the assumption is like, hey, they got it made because they got a degree paid for, but you still have to pick something that aligns with your game schedule, your practice schedule, all the things that you have involved. So when I was first going to junior college, I thought I wanted to be a nurse, and so that was my like initial thought. And then my coach just reminded me like, hey, really great, but just keep in mind, as you get later on, you have to do like clinicals and all these things. It may not work.
Yeah.
Yes. And so I really appreciated that open like dialogue by my coach. And that's why I chose exercise science, because at the time I thought I wanted to be a athletic trainer. And so that's why I was taking all of those like biology, chem, physics, math courses.
Okay. Did you regret not doing nursing, or you were okay with how things were?
I definitely don't regret it, especially because of COVID and all
Yes.
that stuff.
Uh-huh.
I felt so bad for the healthcare professionals because they, of course, they still got to go to work and be superstars, essentially, come back with bruises, with all those stuff that they had to put on their face. So, I mean, I think it worked out in the long run.
Yes. I just love how you value education. You're an athlete that values education. What instilled education in you at a young age?
I would say my family. So my mom and my teacher, when I was growing up, they were both teachers. So that was like watching that, and I think of even like the way that you talk and express yourself. Like, of course, we all heard the term professionalism and making sure that you have character, things of that sort. But I really saw that being illustrated by my mom and grandmother, because they used to get all the bad kids.
Yeah.
Being teachers, and they were really good at being disciplined, but also being respectful too, to show them like, hey, like this is not what you're supposed to do. Like, and I knew growing up, I didn't want to be in that profession. So that, along with like my father also worked in the school system, but on like the logistical side. And then my grandfather was a lawyer, and so he definitely let me know like you need to have your education. Nobody can take that away from you.
Yes, definitely. That's a good thing, because not too many student athletes focus on the education part. They're all about the sport. So what advice would you give student athletes who struggle with the importance of education?
Good question. It's so important. And when I think of education, it's just not the degree. When you get into college, you really need to know who you are, know your skill set. Yep. And so when the sport ends, you have something to lean on. Like, of course, it's just so much time being invested in your sport, which is great. Because I mean, again, that's what they're paying you for. But at the end of the day, you need to know how to educate yourself in terms of like adulthood, because that's essentially when it starts, when you start college. And so know what you can bring outside of the court too, because you're more than just the athlete. You have a whole nother side of you. And if you don't realize that early on, even before you get to college, then you're going to struggle.
Yep, definitely will. How were you able to manage athlete and academics? Being an athlete and academics.
I would say really ever since I was a kid, I was always involved in stuff, especially sports. Like I did gymnastics, baseball, track, flag football.
Wow, you in everything.
Yeah, and my first, like, I think if I wasn't doing basketball, at first I was a competitive cheerleader. Like I was really good at it for like, the majority of my childhood, but I had to like choose between the two. But balancing just sports and academics, even through K-12, was something very important. Like, again, I really didn't have that option not to care, especially because like my family, like two of the most important people in my life were teachers, educators, and so I had to have that balance. And then even with my high school, they wanted me to go to a very competitive high school. And so where, again, I took those AP and IB courses, and I quickly learned like, okay, my study habits have to be even better. And so I was a varsity athlete in high school, and then balancing, practices and classes still. And then again, that carried on into college. And so work-life balance was very important, even outside of like a full-time job.
You also have your own business. You're a career consultant. Have you ever thought about partnering with colleges and universities so you can connect with the athletes after they graduate or after they finish playing basketball, where you can help them find their career path? Have you ever thought about partnering with any other universities to help those athletes?
Yes, certainly. That is definitely one of my long-term goals. I want to do that once I build more staff in terms of my business, because since December 2020, it's just been myself. I'm actually in the process of hiring a social media marketing intern. And so I posted that position. We have a career platform. It's called Handshake. And so a lot of colleges use that to like have employers come in and post jobs. And so that's what I did. I got a lot of applicants. And so I'm actually in like the last final rounds in terms of interviews. And that is like the first step towards that long-term goal of helping students, but especially student athletes, because I feel like that's such a great area to be in. And career development is a lot of times forgotten for student athletes.
So what made you decide to go into career consulting?
It's weird how it happened, because it wasn't my plan. Like I said earlier, I thought I wanted to be an athletic trainer, a nurse, a psychiatrist. I thought I wanted to be a clinical psychologist. And so when I was getting close to graduating with my psychology degree, like I was applying to a bunch of grad schools. And I heard about the career counseling program at Florida State University. I read up on it on the website, and it seemed very interesting. I've never heard of it. I never even used a career center in undergrad, sadly. I should have. But it's such a great resource on campus, because a lot of students are paying tuition. And so you need to use all those resources, the career center, the counseling center, because it's there. And so when I read that program for Florida State University, I was like, hey, let me just try it out, see if I like it. And it was very challenging, but it was really good for me. And in my second year of grad school, I was like, I want to do this myself. I'm doing all this work for Florida State, but let me try it myself, because I know I'm good at it. I have the skill set. I've learned this. I've done this thousands of times with all types of students, alumni, even community members. And so I wanted to build my own following. And so that's how that started.
Okay. Can you talk about your experience with the Women's American Basketball Association?
Yeah. So after graduating from Florida State University, I knew I wanted to try something new. I've been in Florida pretty much all my life. And so I applied for jobs across like the East Coast, and then that's how I landed in Richmond, Virginia. And then I was just Google searching. I was like, oh, is there any like professional teams, just anything around the area? And then I ended up finding the Richmond Roadrunners. And so they were a team in their first, because they were supposed to have their first season, but COVID happened. So that was their first inaugural season that I played for the Richmond Roadrunners for the WABA. And really great experience. And I was quite surprised, because I still played, I was in shape a little bit, but I hadn't, run up and down the court in a couple of years. But, I'm one of those people, like, if I really want to do something, I'm not going to give up on it, and I want to be great at it. And we ended up doing really well for that first season, went to the playoffs. I made the All Star team in my first year, and first time kind of getting back into things. So it was a wonderful experience, for sure.
Do you see yourself playing in the WNBA in the near future?
Oh yes, definitely. If I have an opportunity to, I would totally go for it. I think I have the skill set, I have the IQ, and definitely the energy to get it done. And like I said, I'm always type like I think it's funny because being a college athlete is hard to get out of that like workout mentality when you're
Yes.
doing it so long. And so that's why again I still stay in shape, make sure that I am well mentally, physically, keeping my faith up. And I'm really thankful for my agent that I have, Helen
Yes.
Bohanna,
Hmm.
because she keeps me grounded
Shout out
throughout.
to Helen. If it
Yes.
wasn't for her, I wouldn't got the opportunity to interview you. So definitely shout out to her.
Yes.
Who's your favorite WNBA player?
Ooh, definitely Courtney Williams. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
she's
watch her play and she reminds me a lot of myself in terms of energy and she actually, because I'm from Florida, like Jacksonville, Florida.
mhm.
And she's like right there on the line, kind of, because she's like lower Georgia. So so
Yes.
kind of close. Yeah.
I read that you tried out for Athlete Unlimited. What was that experience like? Did you run into any WNBA players? Because a few of them play for Athlete Unlimited.
Yeah, they were actually there at the tryouts, and I was like kind of starstruck. I was like, oh my gosh, like they're actually here, but I'm trying to like remain,
Yes.
calm. But yeah, it was such a great experience. Very organized, a lot of great star power. All the girls that were there trying out, coaches, WNBA players that were there, helping us and telling us like strategies and like kind of going back to even those fundamentals was very great to experience and be a part of.
Okay.
Mhm.
Um, can you talk about your other brands because you have multiple businesses? You don't just do career consulting. You have others. Could you talk about your other brands?
Yeah. So I recently started a brand. It's called AK1. Um, and so I kind of was motivated to call it that because my nickname's Ari, my middle name's Kai, and then in terms of like my favorite numbers is 1, but also I want the athletes that utilize this brand to feel like
Yes.
number. And so it's a finger sleeve brand. I kind of think about as athletes, we may not need it, but we put it on for style. So like
Yeah.
arm sleeves, leg sleeves, the headband, and so I was thinking, I was like, let me do something else, but can also like, fulfill that stylish purpose. So I thought about the finger sleeve. It's in different colors. The most recent release was like a red, white, and blue sleeve, and it's called Unity.
Nice.
And so I'm thinking about that song by Queen Latifah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that kind of was thinking about that. Um, but yeah, I just started it. I'm doing really a lot of groundwork, just trying to market it as best as I can. If you're an athlete out there and you want to be a brand ambassador, definitely hit me up. Follow the Instagram page, the AK1 brand. So yeah, that's a little bit
Okay.
about the brand.
So you guys make sure you go follow AK1 brand now if you are an athlete and check out Arianna's brand. Also, I wanted to know what's your proudest accomplishment?
Mm, okay, gotta pick one. Uh, let's see. I guess I can pick that. I know we mentioned this earlier, but getting that honor for the first ever academic women's All-American was
Yeah,
very like because I
that's
was surprised. Because I wanted to do better. Like my GPA was 3.70 at the time,
wow.
and
That's
so
amazing.
yeah, thank you. But I'm one of those people like I want to excel in everything, and
Yeah,
it
you
would have
wanted
been
that 4.0.
higher. Yes, I wanted it to be higher, and so but I was
Yeah.
very proud of that moment. That one physics class had messed me up.
Aw.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a really good moment. Who inspires you? Who inspires you growing up?
Ooh. I would say my mom,
Your
honestly, because in the early part of my life, it was just me and her. And so I had to like witness her grind.
yeah.
Even though she was a single mom at the time, didn't even really notice it because she was just so great at managing it. And even now, she's just that type of person, no matter what's thrown at her, she's gonna be resilient.
Yeah.
Of course, now, I mean, married, have my stepdad, but he's my dad because he basically raised me. Have my 2 brothers. she's so inspiring. Right now she's in a EDD program. And so I just, again, am just so amazed by how I can't even put it into words. And so that's someone that I definitely look to and help me, again, stay grounded, try not to, even when people try to get at you, you just gotta keep going. Don't let them get to you. Yeah.
Yep. Definitely keep going.
Mm-hmm.
What do you want people to remember you as when it's all said and done?
I would say when they think of Ari, think of a person that is very willing to do whatever it takes. Is someone that may be young, but very mature for her age. Someone that knows what she's doing, isn't afraid to tell the truth, isn't afraid to see the vision. I think for myself, it's kind of crazy, but I'm a risk taker. I think about even the job that I had before coming to Richmond. I was literally driving up to Richmond, and I didn't even get the full job offer yet. Like I knew the vision, I knew it was gonna happen, and on the way there, I got the call. And it's 8 hours away, mind you, from Jacksonville, Florida. But that's just the type of person I am. Like I have this goal in mind. I can see it, and so that's what I want people to remember me for.
Okay. Final thought.
It's a new year. It's 2023, but I think don't pressure yourself in terms of like making or getting like all the goals that you want in 1 year. Like we have a whole life ahead of us, God willingly. And so don't rush yourself. It's so easy to compare yourself in this day and age because of social media. Even friends and family can pressure you. The people that you think got your back can turn on you like in a heartbeat. So just stay to your roots, keep your character, keep your drive, and take it day by day because, anything can happen. I was thinking about even like the football player, DeMar.
Yeah.
And heartbreaking, but I think even for him, he's gonna probably even just go back and really think like what he values. Yeah, because it's a scary moment. So just understand that you're blessed by just waking up, having food, having a roof over your head, and just think about the blessings first.
Great food for thought. Well, thank you so much, Arianna, for joining Let's Talk Women in Basketball. You have a bright future ahead of you, and I look forward to seeing what else God has in store for you in the near future.
All right. Thank you. Have a good one.
You're welcome. You too. That's it for Let's Talk Women in Basketball podcast. Be sure to like, follow, and subscribe on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Let's Talk Women in Basketball podcast. Catch you next time.